Hey y'all, I just wanted to make this little update video to let y'all know what's going on. The last video you saw of me was day 7, headed up towards Spokane to visit my kids. Well, I got up there that Friday on the 7th day and went over to my son's house and parked up on his yard. And well, his driveway actually, and I was there for 10 days, and during those 10 days I thought, well, I've got lots of time to take pictures of his place and the scenery, the surrounding area, and so forth. Well, I don't know if you guys have ever had this feeling, but along about the 9th day, 8th day, I had this feeling that something was wrong back home, and that I needed to get back home. My mom is in the nursing home. She's 93 years old, and she wasn't doing real well when I left, and I just had this strange feeling that I needed to get back home. So I headed back home, and I took a few back roads, but basically stayed on the interstate and just came on home. And so I'm now back home. And fortunately, my feeling was wrong. Everything was fine here. Even though I know I called from up there to check on things, I just had that feeling that something was wrong. So anyway, I got home and everything was wrong. My mom still not doing real well in the nursing home, but she was still kicking. So I'm back. And another thing I wanted to discuss with you is when I put my inverter in, I wired it in myself, and I wired it from the standard transfer switch that's in here to a secondary transfer switch, and then onto the coach. And you know, everything was working fine. Well, when I was up at my son's, I plugged in to a extension cord into his garage. You know, it's a 20 amp cord, and plugged in. Everything was fine, had power, and everything was good, until got up in the middle of the night one night. It's about 1 o'clock in the morning, and I couldn't sleep, and I thought, well, I'll get me something to eat. And so I put something in the microwave, and I hit the power on the microwave. As soon as I did, lost all 110 power to the coach. And I thought, well, okay, it's just a circuit breaker. So opened up my circuit breaker panel, checked all my circuits. None of the circuit breakers were flipped. So I thought, okay, it's his GFI coming out of his garage. So the next morning I went and checked that, and it was fine. I was actually getting power to the cord at the coach. So I couldn't figure out what was going on. I called Thor and talked to them about it, and the first person I talked to said, it sounds like a GFI problem. And so I said, okay. So I got me another GFI switch. I've only got one resettable GFI switch or plug in the coach. I've got 2 other plugs that run off that GFI circuit, but they're not resettable. So I looked at the GFI plug that I've got. It's in the bathroom, and pushed it. Now normally when you push a GFI plug, you can hear a little click. You know, it clicks off or clicks on to reset. And so I said, oh, okay, it wasn't no click. That's probably what it was. So I went to Lowe's and got me a new GFI switch, and came back and put that in there. Still nothing. So I called Thor again, talked to a different guy this time, and he said, yeah, that sounds like it's the converter. Looks like you might have blown the converter out of there. And I thought, okay. So I got to thinking later, that doesn't make sense to me, because when I have my inverter on, I actually turn the circuit breaker off going to the converter, because I don't want that loop developed in there, and everything was working fine. You know, house power and everything was working fine before it blew. And so it didn't make sense to me, but I said, okay. So that happened about halfway through my stay up there, so that was another reason I wanted to come back home, see about getting it fixed. I talked to a couple of the service reps at different RV places up there, and they said, oh yeah, we've got a 1 month wait, a 2 week wait to get it in and so forth, and I didn't want to go through that hassle up there. So I came back home. I got home and I took it down to the local RV place down here, the same shop that fixed my generator on my, or rebuilt my generator on my Class A, and they did a good job on that. So I took it back to them. Dropped it off on a Wednesday, and Friday they called and said it's fixed, ready to come. So I went down to pick it up, and I talked to the electrician down there that did it, and he said that the wire running from the first transfer switch into the second transfer switch had kind of melted a little bit. When I asked for that extra power off the microwave, it kind of melted it and shorted it out, so everything stopped. So I said, okay. And what he did was he actually ran a 30 amp cord, the same kind of cord that's coming into the coach from the outside, a 30 amp cord, it's about that big around. Anyway, he ran that from the primary transfer switch, the one that originally came in the coach, the one that accepts the either shore power or generator power. That, by the way, I tried generator and it wouldn't power it up either. And the inverter wouldn't power it up either. But what he did was run a 30 amp cord from the first transfer switch over to the second transfer switch. So it's actually carrying 30 amps through that cord. Then from there, he left it connected up the way I had it. He said, you did a good job, everything was fine, just that one wire. So everything is working again. I'm sitting here, I'm plugged in at the house, I've checked the inverter, I've checked the generator, everything runs fine, everything is working good. So that's an update. So if you do an install like that, maybe you need to get a 30 amp cord to run from your one transfer switch to the other, as opposed to just the standard 110 line that was coming out of there before. So I don't know, but that's what he did. It fixed it, it's working, everything is fine. So I'm still kind of hanging around the house here a little bit because, like I said, my mom is 93. She's in the nursing home. She's not doing real well, but she's still kicking. So I may run down to the beach, for an overnight trip and do some metal detecting. I'm going to try to do some metal detecting around a couple of parks here. I'm going to try to go back to the tot lot that I did earlier and made the videos of. And there's another park here that I want to try to get. There's also a swimming hole here that a lot of the people go swimming at on one of the rivers that's running through here. And I've been there because there's a couple geocaches there, and I've got those geocaches, but I've never metal detected there. And I thought, well, that might be a good place to metal detect. Maybe in the water, people have lost things in the water as well as around the edge. I know there'll probably be a lot of pull tabs and beer cans and that sort of thing, because it is like I said, a swimming hole for the locals. A lot of young kids use it. So I don't know what kind of luck I'll have, but I'll see. But I want to try to make those trips. And that's about it for now. I've got a couple little additions I want to make in the RV. I've got I got me a socket here. It's got two 5-volt 2.1 amp plugs in it, so I can hook the phone and the iPad in at the same time. I've got one up here now that I can use, but that's just one, but this is going to be two. And it's also got a little digital voltmeter readout in the center, so I could see the battery voltage as well. So I'm going to put that on there. I was going to try to put it up on the dash, but I tried this morning to get up under there, and I'd have to pull the whole dash off to get back there to make it look decent, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to pull that whole dash off. So I may try to look someplace else to put this. I've also got a 3 more outlets, 12-volt outlet thing that I want to install. I've always had this little 110 inverter but I've never used it. But I was thinking, well, I can install this someplace and then use this 110 inverter in here when I don't want to put the big inverter on and run it. Just want something small, like to charge cell phones, the iPad, or batteries, camera batteries or something like that while I'm going down the road. Don't want to run the big inverter. I can just run this thing and charge those up to keep everything topped up. So I've got those to put in. I don't know exactly where I'm going to put them now. Had the one idea that that's not working, so I'll try something different. So until then, that's about it for now. Be safe, travel safe. Good luck on your hunting, and until next time, Bill out.